USC star Caleb Williams, the Bears starting quarterback, will not be in the lineup. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California. Home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising@KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you Black.
Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley, and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today in our second hour.
I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the Black population of this country. I've done so much for the Black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for Black workers and Black entrepreneurs. Done so much, and you know, and I say this, historically Black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe
I have
that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another 4
I have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
To be sure, I have my own critique about what was, how might I put it, a hot mess yesterday in Chicago at the NABJ convention. Donald Trump is an irascible, inveterate, unrepentant racial arsonist. He sets race fires everywhere he goes. That ain't breaking news. And yet I fervently disagree with those who say he should not have been invited, when for decades now, NABJ has always invited the major candidates to appear at its annual summer conference. But the NABJ did itself no favors yesterday. In my view, they were not ready for prime time and were in some ways complicit in helping to create the circus that made Donald Trump the lead story once again. It was not Black America's finest moment. Yesterday in Chicago, Donald Trump detonated a grenade that blew up Harris's week of media domination and allowed him to snatch back the media spotlight. Calling her blackness into account is clearly Trump's new brand of birtherism. But that's just me. We will speak with a round table of black journalists about Donald Trump's combative appearance yesterday at the National Association of Black Journalists Conference in Chicago and see what they have to say. It's going to be fire. I can promise you that in hour 2. In our third hour,
same old place, sweet home Chicago.
Buddy Guys, Sweet Home Chicago. In our third hour, Lucy Smith and Cheryl Corley talk about Chicago Bound, the great migration of the blues, and their unique concert in the Park series. I love me some Buddy Guy. Speaking of Chicago, a great club he owns there in downtown. Buddy Guy, amazing artist. Doesn't get his respect as far as I'm concerned, but we'll talk about the great migration of the blues, Chicago Bound, when we get to hour 3 today. But in this first hour, 2 more conversations. On the B side of this hour, Kamala Harris has scored a big one, and I mean a big one, winning the endorsement of the UAW, the United Auto Workers, in a talk radio exclusive. UAW President Shawn Fain joins us on the backside of this hour. But when we come forward, we will commence today's show talking politics with the founder of Jacobin and current president of The Nation magazine, Bosa Sankara, on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste, so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Let's get this party started with Bosa Sankara, president of The Nation magazine, founder of Jacobin. Pleased to have Bosa back on this program. Bosa Sankara, how are you today, sir?
I'm great. And before we start, I have one quick aside on Buddy Guy, who I know you just mentioned.
Yes.
He's not only one of the most underrated musicians of all time, but my sister was actually his assistant for a little bit in Chicago and has only the nicest things to say about him. So you never know. It's super. People have been famous for decades. You never know the way they're like interpersonally. But she had only the best reviews of Buddy Guy and the type of person he was, in addition to, obviously, him as an artist.
I love you sharing that story, Bosa. You never know how the dots are going to connect on this program. Who knew that our first guest, Bosa Sankara, has a sister who worked for Buddy Guy? I love Buddy Guy deeply. As I mentioned, I hang out with him oftentimes when I'm in Chicago. I'll be there this summer, of course, covering the DNC, so I'll check in on him then. But I go to Chicago. So many good people out in that city, of course. We're honored to be heard on WVON right now in Chicago. But so many great friends and great people in the Windy City, and none better than Buddy Guy, who is just, as I said earlier, and I'm glad you agree, just underrated. Now, does not get the respect, even all these years later, that he deserves, being such an amazing musician. But I love me some Buddy Guy, and just delighted to know that your sister once worked for Mr. Guy. What a great story. Let me jump right in and make the most of the time we have. I suspect I should start with giving you a chance to sound off. We'll spend an entire hour, as you heard today, in the second hour of the show, talking with a round table of black journalists about what went down yesterday. But from your perspective, from your perch, what did you see? How did you process what went down in Chicago yesterday, Bosa?
Yeah, I thought it was ugly. I'm not positive I fully agree with your analysis. I want to hear more about it being necessarily a good thing for Trump that he's back dominating the news cycle, because I do think his responses were horrible. Obviously, there seemed to be some issues with the event and its execution and how it was framed and so on, but I do think it was correct to invite Trump, but I don't think this is positive for him. I actually think that what made Trump so, obviously we despise his politics, but so dynamic in a certain way in 2016 is not really there now. He really seems erratic. It seems like he's changing the question. It seems like he's pandering to not even the culture war points, quote unquote, that can actually win over swing and independent voters. But he's pandering to the worst parts of his base and the most narrow parts of his base, and I don't think it helps him.
All right, so let me push back on that. It may not help him, but let me just since you went there, follow you, and we'll go back and forth here. As you know, in a race as close as the one that we're expecting in November, turnout matters. You don't get turnout, Bosa, unless your base is enthusiastic about the possibilities. Every time Donald Trump throws out red meat to his base, it raises the temperature. It increases the level of their excitement. Excitement, enthusiasm leads to turnout. That's my first point. Push back on that if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree, but obviously it's what you're motivating people to turn out for. I do think part of his 2016 turnout that made such a crucial difference in certain swing states, particularly in the Midwest, was the fact that he was talking about trade, he was talking about jobs, he was talking about manufacturing and other issues that mattered to enough workers in those areas in particular that he was able to swing those states. And obviously it didn't help, as we've discussed together before, that Hillary Clinton didn't even bother to campaign in Michigan. So I do think there's a difference between mobilizing your base with red meat that also appeals to the middle and mobilizing your base with more fringe beliefs. Because I do think if you look at the United States, there's so many problems with the U.S. We still have such persistent issues with racism, with xenophobia, and so on. But there was recently a poll out where 60% of Americans as a whole supported birthright citizenship, even if both parents weren't documented.
Yeah.
I think that tells you something about where American politics still is vis-a-vis Europe. And obviously we're trending in a bad direction.
Yeah.
But I do think that those sorts of appeals are minoritarian in nature.
So here's my response. Again, this is fun. We're pushing back and forth here like a seesaw. Donald Trump, as I said a moment ago, apparently has made the attack on Kamala Harris, calling into question her blackness, his new form of birtherism. But I remind you, my friend Bosa Sankara, that Donald Trump started that birtherism with Barack Obama. That angle, that drama, that narrative got him to be the Republican nominee not once, not twice, but a third time. Donald Trump has shown for his base that birtherism argument works. Your turn.
Yeah, no, I agree that it worked within the primaries and made him
not the primary, Oscar, not just the primary. My point is it got him elected. Keep going. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm not positive. I don't think it necessarily helped him in the general election. I mean, this is a hard question to litigate.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say with any sort of confidence, but it's my gut that it got him the Republican nomination. And then from that point, he followed the lead of Steve Bannon and others, and he pretended to be a populist for all of a few minutes until he got into power, of course. And as you know, just delivered a massive, massive tax handout to his rich buddies.
I am always disappointed. You've heard me say this before. This audience has heard me say it ad infinitum, ad nauseum. I blame the mainstream media in part for Donald Trump having been elected in the first place. I ain't got time to unpack that. This audience has heard that argument repeatedly. The media doesn't build you up and tear you down. The media builds you up to tear you down. They're getting money. They're getting clicks. They're getting views coming and going. So this is a game in many respects for the media, which is why they always seem to cover the horse race, never focusing in on the issues. I digressed on that for now. Here's my point, though, that part of what it means to win an election is to dominate the news cycle. Donald Trump has a way of doing that better than anybody. So even if you don't agree that putting him back as the lead story aids and abets him, it certainly takes Kamala Harris for the moment off of the front pages, and that ain't a bad thing for Donald Trump. Your turn.
Yes, definitely. No, I think it's also true. It also is true that this international escalation, which I think Israel has a lot of responsibility for, with the recent assassination in Iran and with the threat of a regional war, doesn't bode well for a person who hasn't been president before, who is, in many ways, we know that whatever our thoughts about the details of our policies and our political evolution, Harris is extremely experienced and qualified, far more so than Trump was going to the job. But the fact that Trump was a former president and there being this huge international instability abroad, again, is distracting from the good feelings I think we had across the Democratic Party and across even among progressives. Like I myself am not someone who had a great deal of allegiance to this version of the Democratic Party and what this party has meant through Clinton and even President Obama. But the threat and the fear of Trump was so intense that I was, I think last week I was really thrilled by the prospects for Harris to beat Trump, and I figured, hey, you know what? I would much rather be in opposition to a Harris administration than in opposition to a Trump administration carrying out mass deportations and further pushing this country into such a divisive direction. Because I'm all for class war. I'm all for working class people standing up for their rights and oppressed people standing up for their rights, but that's very different than the sort of race baiting and the sort of vitriol that Trump is basing his polarization on.
I want to return in a moment to this notion of a regional war in the Middle East, the fear about that, given what's happened over the last couple of days. And I want to come back to this point again about instability abroad and how not even just that, but that plus might control or determine, rather, the outcome of this election. My point is that sometimes there are issues internationally and domestically beyond the control of either candidate that pushes America in one direction. And you're right, that Americans are always skittish, history shows us, about electing someone with little foreign policy experience at a moment like this. Surely as Vice President Kamala traveled around the globe, but Donald Trump was, in fact, the president, and there are concerns about putting somebody who doesn't have that level of experience when we are facing what we're facing right now. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that in a moment. My question, though, very quickly, two other things about Chicago yesterday. Again, we'll debate this for the full hour with a round table of black journalists on this program. But your thoughts about whether or not he should have been invited in the first place. My point was, you heard me say a moment ago, NABJ does this every 4 years. Every 4 years, they always invite the major party nominees. There's a whole other issue we'll talk about in an hour or two about why they don't invite everybody else. I can assure you, if Cornel West had been there yesterday, they wouldn't have had this meltdown. But they only seem to invite the two major parties, and I think black journalists do themselves and all the rest of us a disservice by acting like this is a binary choice, as if there aren't other folk on the ballot. Again, wait for hour two for that conversation. My question for you now is how you respond to folk, indeed black journalists, who boycotted, were upset, saying he should not have been invited. I don't believe that, given their own pattern, Bhaskar.
Listen, people who are members of an organization obviously have the right to boycott it, but it seems common sense to me that a association like that would want to present itself as nonpartisan and serious and caring about issues. And to that end, I completely agree that if in fact you're nonpartisan and in fact you care about the issues and not just pushing one particular narrow Democratic Party agenda, then sure, there should be wider voices. There should be Cornel West. There should even be libertarian candidates out there. Let the people hear what these candidates actually stand for.
As I said earlier, this is not black America's finest moment. Think about the point that Bhaskar and I are making right now. Just pause for a second. Set your vitriol for Donald Trump aside. This organization is called the National Association of Black Journalists. What would happen in America if an organization of white journalists had behaved that way yesterday at their national convention? If you're journalists, you're supposed to be, at least act like you are, nonpartisan. I ain't stuck on stupid. I know how these Negroes feel. We all feel the same way about Donald Trump. But if you are an organization and the word journalist is in your title, hello? How do you argue that he shouldn't have been invited? You're a journalist. How do you behave that way? You're a journalist. What happened to the notion of nonpartisan? Again, wait for hour two. We'll get into that, but I just wanted to put a finer point on that. Let me circle now back to what you said earlier about instability abroad, the threat of a regional war, and how that might impact this election come November. But that's November. Let's talk about right now and how real the threat is of a regional war, given what Israel has done in terms of an assassination, we are told. At least that's what the belief is by some. And these increasing tensions with Hezbollah. Your thoughts, Bosa Sankara?
Well, Israel has a wide range of autonomy. I think sometimes progressives, we have the idea that the U.S. controls Israeli policy, but I think there is a wide range of autonomy. But this is to some extent chickens coming home to roost for Biden, in that Biden has not set any clear limits on offensive weaponry to Israel. Occasionally he'll rhetorically distance himself from Netanyahu, he'll urge caution, but fundamentally Biden is part of an older generation of Democratic Party politicians that see in Israel interests completely overlapping with that of the United States. And I think it's not even that controversial. I think there would be huge support in the Democratic Party to say, okay, let's not touch these hot-button issues like Iron Dome and other things, the defensive protection of Israel that might be more controversial. But let's talk about offensive weaponry being used right now and U.S. money and funds being used to commit, in my mind, is genocide in Gaza, or at the very least is mass murder that is, in effect, whatever the proximate cause, whatever Israel's intention is leading to the deaths of tens of thousands, is leading to hundreds of thousands being displaced. And, fundamentally in Israel that is not looking to seek some sort of total victory against all its foes in the region, that doesn't think it has a blank check from the U.S., is not going to go around escalating things in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. No, I take your point. Watching my clock here. What are your thoughts, your concerns about issues that are not even being discussed right now? And if they're being discussed, they're nowhere near the top of the American agenda. But they're issues that nonetheless might boil to the top and turn this race one way or the other in ways that we can't even imagine. Again, you and I were discussing moments ago foreign policy. And typically, foreign policy is not at the top of the list of Americans making decisions around presidential elections. But if there is a wider war, if the situation with Ukraine and Russia gets worse, we just told that Russia has taken over two more important geographic areas in Ukraine. If either of these or something else on the international stage worsens, that impacts how people view who they're electing, Bosa Sankara.
Yes, definitely. To some degree, like I said, Israel, I do think is an exception. I think there's something that Biden can do to make it easier for Vice President Harris and her campaign. But some of these things are out of the control. We can't dictate how the Russian advance goes in their illegal war. Again, this is another difficult situation in that, I'm against Russia's war, but I don't think the U.S. can risk escalation by providing more aid than it already is. But I do think that what you can do is try to pivot towards broad-based economic issues. And ironically, President Biden, in the last 9 days of his campaign, tried to do that. He was not an effective communicator, so he was unable to do that the way that he should have done it. But he did say things like, for corporate landlords getting government subsidies, we're going to cap their rents on existing units at 5%. We're going to repurpose certain public lands sustainably to build more affordable housing in places like Nevada. We're going to pass the PRO Act, make it easier to form a union. We're going to deliver on all sorts of other things for working class people. And I think a comprehensive and logical way he laid out a first 200 days of a new term. He was just unable to communicate it. He was a poor candidate because of his current inability to communicate with the American people. That's a huge part of politics. Yeah. But I think he laid the way. I think Vice President Harris really does want to follow in those footsteps, but she's getting pulled in a million different directions. And I know we're short on time, but one thing I urge people to look at is some of the debates within the Democratic Party over funding from these crypto capitalists that are pouring millions of dollars into races, including the Katie Porter Senate race and other sources. And a lot of Democrats are saying, let's lay off crypto regulation because this industry is too powerful. You're going to see this multiplied for a million different industries as Democrats try to shy and move to the center because they're afraid of provoking money in politics and they're afraid of provoking fights they're going to lose. But in fact, if they're going to win over the majority of American people and the American workers, they're going to need to provide a positive economic agenda for them.
He's the founder of Jacobin Magazine and currently the president of The Nation Magazine. He is Bosa Sankara. Bosa, always appreciate your insights. You always push me, make me think, which I'm grateful for. We'll do it again soon, my friend. All the best to you. Thanks for your time.
It's a pleasure.
When we come forward, an exclusive conversation with the president of the UAW, Shawn Fain, on this big endorsement they gave yesterday to Kamala Harris. We'll talk about that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free Coin Collector Bonus Pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Island, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is introducing a bill to make sure presidents don't have criminal immunity, outlining the No Kings Act, signed by more than 24 Democratic lawmakers. It's a response to the Supreme Court's recent ruling that former President Trump has limited immunity for some actions taken while in office. The Biden administration is calling for airlines to seat parents next to their young children free of charge. If approved, the Department of Transportation's rule would require families to be kept together when seating is available. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says flying with children is hard enough without worrying about being able to sit with them on a flight. The U.S. added 4 medals on Wednesday at the Paris Olympics with 30 medals, including 5 gold, 13 silver, and 12 bronze. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Island on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Me and the kids were always messaging. They LOL'd, I ROFL'd, but then I changed phone and the bubbles went green. But where there's a fill, there's a way. And I found a way to share what's in here. I'm tapping my heart.
WhatsApp, the place to safely send messages between different devices. Message privately with everyone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. men's Olympic basketball team had a dominant performance against South Sudan. They won by 17. 18 points off the bench for Bam Adebayo. LeBron had 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 of Team USA's 29 assists. The win moves Team USA into the quarterfinals on Saturday. They'll play Puerto Rico. The U.S. women's basketball team is back in action today. They take on Belgium, 11:15 a.m. tip-off on the USA Network. Dodgers fans are getting a little nervous after losing back-to-back games to San Diego. The Dodgers led the Padres by 9 games in the NL West in mid-July. That league has shrunk to 4.5. The Dodgers closed out July 11-13, their first losing month since April of 2018. The first NFL preseason game is today. The Chicago Bears and Houston Texans meet up in the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. Former USC star Caleb Williams, the Bears starting quarterback, will not be in the lineup. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Blindster is a family-run business that began in 2010, and we've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters and received over 100,000 five-star reviews. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downy are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/DC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking. Now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Did you know your life insurance is an asset you can sell? I'm Jay Jackson, CEO of Abacus Life. For almost 20 years, Abacus has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors just like you. And at abacuspays.com, we've created a free policy value calculator so you can find out the worth of your policy in just seconds. There are no fees and no obligations. Get real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus. Learn more at abacuspays.com.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed. I am honored once again to welcome to this program Shawn Fain, the president of the UAW. As I mentioned earlier, Kamala Harris got a big win yesterday, getting this endorsement from the UAW. And I'm pleased to have right now in a talk radio exclusive, the president of the UAW, our friend and brother, Shawn Fain. Shawn Fain, how are you today, sir?
Hey, doing great. It's great to be here, like always.
It's good to hear your voice again. Good to have you back on this program. Let me make the most of the time we have and give it to you. Tell me about this endorsement yesterday, why the UAW has come down on the side of Kamala Harris. Let me preface it by saying that the UAW had initially endorsed Joe Biden. We all know that Joe Biden became the first president ever, certainly in a long time, to walk a picket line. And that became big news, and we were all we were all prepared for Joe Biden to be riding that issue all the way to November about his having walked the picket line and his strong support of labor, given that he had the UAW endorsement. Joe Biden stands down, endorses Kamala Harris. The UAW take a minute. They didn't rush into this. They took their time. I'll let Shawn Fain tell you what they were doing in the interim, but they took their time, and then yesterday they come out with their endorsement of Kamala Harris. Tell me more, Shawn Fain.
Yeah, thanks. And so, look, when I took over the UAW a little over a year ago, we put the UAW back to a member-driven union. No, it's no longer a top-down driven union. It's not about the leader to top. It's about the membership.
Mm-hmm.
So, when the president came out and said he was not going to run, we had a meeting with our executive committee, and then we started reaching out to leaders all over the country and to our members and to our political reps all over the country and getting feedback from them about where the membership was, what they were feeling. And then also doing what we do best. In our big three contract fight last year and all of our fights since, we look at facts. We put facts on the table. We don't look at opinion. We don't look at party politics. We look at people in their own words and own actions. And so, we put Vice President Harris and her body of work up against what Donald Trump hasn't done in his lifetime. And it's a really clear picture of who the better candidate is for working class people and for our UAW members. And, you mentioned a minute ago about President Trump being the first president to join striking workers on a picket line this last fall. But interestingly, when Donald Trump was president in 2019 and GM workers were on strike for 40 days, Donald Trump did nothing and said nothing. And he was nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
But who joined us on the picket line in 2019?
Who was that?
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was right there standing with striking workers.
Yeah.
And, looking at all those things, and just the work that the Vice President Harris and the Biden administration have done for working class people in the last 4 years, it's a very easy decision for us.
Joe Biden has stood down, but he's clearly president of the United States until January of next year. Just assess for me how you think he has done in his one term on labor issues.
Look, it's said over and over by labor people, and I'll say it again. Joe Biden is by far the best president I have in my lifetime for working class people and for labor. The shameful part of this, is that, working class people in this country are hurting, and they've been hurting,
mm-hmm.
and they've been left behind for decades. And, the big topic that Trump likes to talk about is inflation. And they like to talk about inflation and point a finger at President Biden. And nothing could be further from the truth. This inflation wasn't caused by policy. This inflation was caused by two words: corporate greed and consumer price gouging. And they took advantage of a pandemic that then President Trump failed to act and put us in a worse position as millions of people were dying. Companies found a way, as the wealthy always do, to try anytime there's an emergency or a situation in this country like that. The corporate world and the billionaires always try to find a way to extract more wealth. And, they started inflating prices and working class people paid the price for that. So, we got to start speaking truth to that. But as far as the Biden-Harris administration, they have been the best administration in my lifetime for labor.
Yep. Let me preface this, Shawn Fain, by saying that Shawn Fain and I are both from Kokomo, Indiana, so we have that in common. Number one. Number two, whenever he comes on, I always shout out my brothers who are listening right now in Kokomo, who are union members and work at the plant in Kokomo, Indiana, right now, the same place that Shawn Fain works. So there's a family connection here between Shawn Fain and my brothers listening, the Smiley boys, back in Kokomo, Indiana, right now. Yeah. So we have that in common, but we also have this in common. Some years ago, I recall this vividly. Somebody reminded me about it a couple of days ago. The New York Times did a huge spread. I mean, the whole center of the paper. It was a huge, full spread of the New York Times some years ago. And I think, don't quote me on the number, I think it was like something like the 219 people that Donald Trump hates most on social media. And yours truly was one of those 219 people. I'm reading the New York Times, and I'm scrolling this list, and there pops out my name to me, Tavis Smiley, and they list some of the things that Trump had said about each of these 219 people, whatever the number was. They put in the New York Times some of the things that Trump had said and tweeted about these various people. So I've always worn that as a badge of honor, that I was on the list of the persons that Donald Trump hates the most on social media. That, again, a few years ago. You can Google it and find it for yourself. You know I ain't making this up. I raised that because Donald Trump has gone in of late on Shawn Fain. Gone in to the point of calling for him to be fired as the head of the UAW. So, Shawn Fain, how are you navigating Donald Trump going in on you, man?
Hey, look, anyone that knows Donald Trump knows what he is. He's a phony. He's a fraud. And his two favorite words are "you're fired," and so, like you, I wear anything he says is a badge of honor. If he said good things about me, it would make me question my integrity as a human being. When he was making that statement too at the Republican convention and after at a rally, talking about the UAW, that we're killing the auto industry, and the man has no idea what he's even talking about. I mean, he actually, when he said that, he talked about a Chinese company building a factory in Mexico. Well, let me ask you, what the hell does the UAW have to do with a Chinese company building a factory in Mexico? Mm-hmm. I mean, we're in America. Mm-hmm. And it's just, the man is all talk, and that's all he does. And, he talks about, workers being left behind. I mean, the thing is, he left workers behind when he was president. I go back to GM workers at Lordstown Assembly Plant and GM workers in a powertrain plant and workers at Ford in a Romeo engine plant. All those plants were closed when Donald Trump was president. And, Donald Trump didn't do a damn thing to try to help that situation or try to find a solution to keep those jobs in America. But you know who did? Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. They went to work for us. This contract, they went to work for us, and they saved jobs at a plant that was going to be closed in Belvedere, Illinois. And those Lordstown workers that were left behind by Donald Trump, the Biden administration built a new battery plant at Altium in Lordstown. And those Lordstown workers that were sent all over the country back then under Trump's presidency are now coming home under the Biden-Harris administration. So the man is all talk. Yeah. He doesn't know a damn thing about what he's talking about. So
Shawn Fain knows what he's talking about, and I've got more talk with him when we come forward. I specifically want to ask him, I don't know if this is impolitic, and if it is, he'll tell me, but I want to ask anyway. We were talking on this program yesterday about the fact that the new word that Democrats love is weird. That's the word they're using to describe Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, that they're weird. What was weird for many of us was watching the president of the Teamsters at the RNC. I'm still trying to figure out what that was really all about, but I'm curious as the union leader for the UAW, how Shawn Fain processed the head of the Teamsters, speaking at the RNC. Whether or not he thought it was weird, we will see when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Tavis is like George and Wheezy. He's moving on up. Last year, Tavis was number 45 on the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America. Wait for it. Wait for it. The 2024 list was recently released, and Tavis has jumped to number 33 on the list of the nation's most important talkers, making him the highest-ranked African-American on the coveted roster. Congratulations to Tavis Smiley from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580. We've got you black.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Shawn Fain, president of the UAW, talking about the big endorsement of Kamala Harris yesterday by the UAW. This is fascinating. Shawn Fain, and Shawn is spelled S-H-A-W-N, is the head of the UAW. There's another Shawn, spelled S-E-A-N, Shawn O'Brien, who's head of the Teamsters. And I don't want you to ever confuse these two Shawns. But the other Shawn O'Brien, spoke at the RNC, and many people thought it was a little weird. So, Shawn Fain, how did you process that moment, if you can share a bit?
Well, I'd tell you one thing for sure, you'll never see me is at a Republican National Convention. But, look, I think President O'Brien, as he's talked before, like he has members, as we all do, that, some of our members are going to vote Republican.
Sure.
That's just a reality.
Sure.
So, I think it was, courageous for him to go into the billionaire's lion's den. But, and I think it should be a wake-up call for the Democrat Party that, look,
right,
the Republicans are trying to paint themselves as pro-worker to win votes, and it's a total scam. So if Democrats don't put forward a strong pro-worker message, with strong labor voices, that can be a serious issue for them. But when I look at that, look, I know I have some members, a handful that are going to support Trump. But our job as leaders is to lead and speak truth. And, you look at the simple facts. it's the PRO Act, the Protect the Right to Organize Act that we tried to pass this past few years. Not one Republican voted for that. Any legislation that's been good for labor over the years, typically it's straight party line vote. Democrats vote for it, Republicans vote against it. Trump appointed a union avoidance attorney as the head general counsel for the NLRB when he was president, which was horrible for labor. So, and the kicker is the Biden-Harris administration saved the Teamsters pensions. I mean, they bailed out their pension fund with hundreds of millions of dollars. And so, to me, look, I can't explain the rationale there. I think he did it with good intent, but at the end of the day, I know where Trump stands and Republicans stand, and they sure as hell do not stand for working class people and our issues. And so, as I said, it's one place you're never going to see me.
Let me ask you right quick, watching my time. Do you think that sort of Jedi mind trick will work, that featuring someone like that at their convention trying to suggest that they're a pro-worker, will that Jedi mind trick work on voters?
I don't believe it will, because, look, we're going to be speaking facts. We're going to be speaking truth, and the facts point to a different position. And, Donald Trump doesn't know a damn thing about working class people, doesn't care for working class people. And you look at some of the stuff yesterday, that interview that he did with, the Association of Black Journalists, that was just shameful. I mean, I don't even know how anyone can look at this man.
Yeah, there's one word for it, shameful. As you've already heard, we're going to be spending our second hour today talking just about that with a round table of black journalists coming up in just about 8 minutes at the top of the hour. But I've got a few more minutes left with Shawn Fain, head of the UAW, when we come forward. You heard him say you will never see him at the RNC. I'll be in Chicago broadcasting live from the DNC. I wonder if Shawn Fain can tell us whether or not he'll be speaking at the DNC. We'll talk about that and a couple other things before I lose at the top of the hour. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found BenefitsCheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. BenefitsCheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada. Member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, John, why so glum?
I just got let go. The company's downsizing. This is the third time in the last 2 years. I'm done with this.
Have you thought about My Computer Career? I've heard they can train you for a career in IT in just a few months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI. And you don't need prior training or experience. Now that's a recession-resistant career.
Wow, thanks. I'll check them out.
Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. mycomputercareer.edu. Financial aid is available for qualified students, including the GI Bill.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and Shawn Fain right now, head of the UAW. In case you've just tuned in or haven't heard, the UAW gave its endorsement yesterday, United Auto Workers, to Kamala Harris for president of these United States. We are honored to have had, for the last 25 minutes, the president of the UAW, Shawn Fain. Grateful for this exclusive on talk radio with the union president. Shawn Fain, a couple of things before I lose you in 4 minutes here. Number one, you said we'd never see you at the RNC. I'll be in Chicago. Will you be in Chicago, sir?
You bet I will. Looking forward to it.
Are you addressing the convention?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Hopefully, I hope to get the opportunity to, but I'm not positive on that yet.
Got it. So let me just ask you, policy-wise, because this is the real stuff here. Policy-wise, should Kamala Harris be elected president, what is it that UAW has put on her agenda that you want her to address in her first term?
Look, this election really comes down to two things, two choices. And I mean, this is about working class people taking back their lives. So policy wise for us, look, we have 4 core issues that we talk about all the time. And it's a living wage for people, and living wage meaning when people work, no matter what work they do, they can make a living off of it. We got to address health care, adequate health care for everyone. People should, in the richest nation in the world, should not have to worry about if something bad happens with their health, that they're going to lose everything.
That's right.
Retirement security, whether it's, through Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. I mean, retirement insecurity is one of the biggest issues in this country right now. And then we talk also about just getting our time back, taking our lives back. Those to us are our 4 core issues. And that literally to me is why 75% of Americans, union or not, supported us in our big free contract fight last year. And what we're up against, your options are this: Kamala Harris, who will support labor, support working class issues, and Donald Trump, who represents the billionaires. And and this is how the billionaires have keep pulling off this coup that they've done, in our lifetimes. Is they play the divide and conquer game, and they want to blame people. They want to blame people by what color they are. They want to blame somebody by who they love. Trump, he's their messenger. Just yesterday, literally said in that interview, is Kamala Indian or black? Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. It is despicable that this man, and now they've created this border crisis. And I say it's a manufactured crisis because we don't have a border crisis. We have a humanity crisis. Mm. And we've got to stop. Working class people have to stop falling for the trick, because what the wealthy do, what the billionaire class does, they try to give white people and working class people a source of frustration for the blame of why their life sucks, while the billionaire class takes everything.
Yep.
And instead of putting that blame on the billionaires and the corporations that are stealing us blind, they want to point it at affirmative action or at some destitute person trying to cross a border.
Yep.
That's just trying to find a better life. So we got to be better than that. And I just believe Kamala Harris is the person to lead us in that fight, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Shawn Fain, I'm always honored to have you on this program. I look forward to hanging out with you for a few minutes, hopefully in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. Hope to have you back on this program then, if we can squeeze a few minutes into your schedule. But I thank you for always accepting our phone call and coming on. I know it was a big day yesterday, a big announcement, and for us to have you the very next day means something to me. I'm honored and humbled by this conversation. Thank you for your time, sir. I'll talk to you soon, I hope.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. And I always got time for my Kokomo family, so anytime, man. I look forward to seeing you in Chicago.
Thank you, sir. See you there. When we come forward, our roundtable of black journalists about the drama in Chicago yesterday. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I
I'm Mike Island, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is introducing a bill to make sure presidents don't have criminal immunity, outlining the No Kings Act, signed by more than 24 Democratic lawmakers. It's a response to the Supreme Court's recent ruling that former President Trump has limited immunity for some actions taken while in office. The Biden administration is calling for airlines to seat parents next to their young children free of charge. If approved, the Department of Transportation's rule would require families to be kept together when seating is available. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says flying with children is hard enough without worrying about being able to sit with them on a flight. The U.S. added 4 medals on Wednesday at the Paris Olympics with 30 medals, including 5 gold, 13 silver, and 12 bronze. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Island on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Me and the kids were always messaging. They LOL'd, I ROFL'd, but then I changed phone and the bubbles went green. But where there's a fill, there's a way. And I found a way to share what's in here. I'm tapping my heart.
WhatsApp, the place to safely send messages between different devices. Message privately with everyone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The U.S. men's Olympic basketball team had a dominant performance against South Sudan. They won by 17. 18 points off the bench for Bam Adebayo. LeBron had 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 of Team USA's 29 assists. The win moves Team USA into the quarterfinals on Saturday. They'll play Puerto Rico. The U.S. women's basketball team is back in action today. They take on Belgium, 11:15 a.m. tip-off on the USA Network. Dodgers fans are getting a little nervous after losing back-to-back games to San Diego. The Dodgers led the Padres by 9 games in the NL West in mid-July. That league has shrunk to 4.5. The Dodgers closed out July 11-13, their first losing month since April of 2018. The first NFL preseason game is today. The Chicago Bears and Houston Texans meet up in the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. Former USC star Caleb Williams, the Bears starting quarterback, will not be in the lineup. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us for a book party celebrating The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. Almost 2 decades ago, the Covenant book, compiled and edited by Tavis Smiley, climbed to number 1 on the New York Times bestsellers list and stayed there for weeks. The first book by a black-owned publisher to achieve such a feat. The urgency of the issues that matter most to black fellow citizens has only intensified, especially in this critical election year. On Wednesday evening, August 14th, 6 to 9 p.m., come meet Tavis Smiley alongside Covenant contributors including Cornel West, Connie Rice, Mark Ridley Thomas, Elisa Orduna, Tyrone Howard, and Melina Abdullah as they sign copies of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later. You can purchase your books on site and get them autographed. That's Wednesday